Hi loves, happy Tuesday. I hope that you guys are doing well. Today is Talk with Tyy Tuesday, and I have a super fascinating social experiment that I'm going to be speaking about today called the Milgram experiment. The Milgram experiment is a study that shows just how far people are willing to go when under a pressure from authority. So in this study, there were participants who were used as students, and there were also participants who were used as teachers. So the teachers were asked to ask the students questions, and whenever they would get an answer wrong, they were to be shocked. Students weren't actually getting shocked, they were not actually harmed, but the teachers were unaware of that. So despite them hearing the screams of the students, they were still going through with the orders that they were being told. This experiment really shocked the world because it showed how everyday people can be led to act against their morals because of pressure from authority. So I'm going to go deeper into this topic and I'm really excited. So if you're interested, let's get into it. Hey loves, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. Thanks for joining me. My name is Tyla and I have a super interesting social experiment today. This is going to be my, I think, third one. I have two other videos on different social experiments that were really interesting as well. So if you want to check those out, I'll leave them linked in the description at the end of this video. But today we're going to be talking about the Milgram experiment. So I came across this experiment not too long ago and I just had to make a video on this because this is something that we actually notice within our society very often that I don't think is talked about. So I have the information right here on my laptop because I didn't want to forget any details. So this was beginning on August 7th, 1961, and it was a series of social psychology experiments that were conducted by Yale University psychologist Stanley Milgram. He was intending to measure the willingness of study participants to obey an authority figure who instructed them to perform acts conflicting with their own personal conscience. So in the experiment, they had two separate groups of people, which I explained a little bit in the beginning. They had some that were supposed to be the teachers and some that were the students. Now the students were actors, so they were not harmed in the process, but they were placed in a separate room so that the teachers wouldn't see them, and they were hooked to an electric chair. The teachers were instructed to ask the students questions, and when they would get the questions wrong, they would be electrocuted. And what they did was each question that they would get wrong, they would increase the voltage of the electric chair. The voltage of the electric chair was increased to levels that would have been fatal if it was actually real. So now I'm going to break down how the experiment went. The teacher began by reading the list of word pairs to the learner. The teacher would then read the first word of each pair and read 4 possible answers. The learner would press a button to indicate his response, and if the answer was incorrect, the teacher would administer a shock to the learner with the voltage increasing in 15-volt increments for each wrong answer. The volts ranged from 15 to 450. The shock generator included verbal markings that varied from slight shock to danger to severe shock. The subjects believed that for each wrong answer, the learner was receiving actual shocks. In reality, there were no shocks. After the learner was separated from the teacher, the learner set up a tape recorder integrated with the electroshock generator, which played previously recorded sounds for each shock level. As the voltage of the fake shocks increased, the learner began making audible protests, such as banging repeatedly on the wall. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. In every condition, the learner makes or says a predetermined sound or word with the highest voltages were reached, the learner fell silent. If at any time the teacher indicated a desire to halt the experiment, the experimenter was instructed to give specific verbal prods. The prods were in this order: 1, please continue or please go on. 2, the experiment requires that you continue. 3, it is absolutely essential that you continue. And 4, you have no other choice, you must go on. Prod 2 could only be used if prod 1 was unsuccessful, and if the subject still wished to stop after all 4 successful verbal prods, the experiment was halted. Otherwise, the experiment was halted after the subject had elicited the maximum 450-volt shock 3 times in succession. The experimenter also had prods to use if the teacher made specific comments. So if the teacher asked whether the learner might suffer permanent physical harm, the experimenter replied, "Although the shocks may be painful, there is no permanent tissue damage, so please go on." If the teacher said that the learner clearly wants to stop, the experimenter replied, "Whether the learner likes it or not, you must go on until he has learned all the word pairs correctly, so please go on." Now, the interesting part is that Milgram did do a poll with some of the psychology major students, and he basically asked them what they believed would happen or if they would continue with the experiment despite seeing the consequences. So all of the poll respondents believed that only a very small fraction of the teachers, the range was from 0 to 3 out of 100 with an average of 1.2, would be prepared to inflict the maximum voltage. So naturally, of course, people wouldn't assume that somebody would continue with an experiment like that, knowing that it's harmful to somebody else. So for the results of this experiment, the subjects were uncomfortable administering the shocks and displayed varying degrees of tension and stress. These signs included sweating, trembling, stuttering, biting their lips, groaning, and digging their fingernails into their skin, and some were even having nervous laughing fits or seizures. 14 of the 40 subjects showed definite signs of nervous laughing or smiling, and every participant paused the experiment at least once to question it. Now, most people, of course, would know that this is extremely wrong, but it does happen a lot in our society, especially when it comes to authority figures. I think this experiment also really shows the blind trust that most people have in authority figures. That's why it's so important to have a strong moral compass, or at least a strong understanding and knowing of what you feel is right and wrong. A lot of the time in society, because of the fact that we have these social hierarchies, we tend to look at people that are in higher positions as rulers or having more authority over us just because of that title and position. So naturally, what that does is it causes people to fall into those orders and submit to what it is that they're being told, because they feel as though they're not on that same level and they don't have that same amount of power. And it's so dangerous because a lot of the people that are in these positions and in these roles of leadership and authority, whether that's in the workplace or just in society as a whole, do not use their roles in a way that is just and fair to others. And because of the fact that people see these titles, it conflicts with certain things that they know are wrong, and they feel as though they can't go against that because they're under that authority. Another really dangerous aspect of this concept as well is that it really shows how when people collectively see that something wrong is taking place, they won't speak up in a situation because they feel as though there's going to be consequences. And when you don't speak up against something, it just further continues that cycle of the wrong that is taking place. It even reminds me of this other experiment that was done that I may or may not make a video on, but it was showing how people in social settings, say like if you're out in public and then you see somebody getting robbed or somebody's getting hurt, and how a lot of people in a situation like that would sit back and watch it happen but not do anything about it. It's kind of a similar concept. And one thing that I also think this experiment did a great job of highlighting is the numbness and powerlessness that people in society feel when it comes to injustice, and how we further perpetuate that certain things are okay just because of the fact that we believe that we lack power in certain circumstances, or just don't have that strong sense of belief and bravery to stand up when things are wrong. A lot of people naturally fall into following and the herd mentality. So most people, they're not going to go against the grain in certain situations because they feel as though they're going to be the oddball out, or there's going to be some consequence to them speaking up in a certain situation. Sometimes it really just takes one person to stand up and be like, hey, like, what are we doing here? This is not okay. This is not right. For other people to follow suit and to gain that inspiration and that strength and stand into their power. Despite the conditioning that society has placed on us, I want you guys all to know that you have a voice, and your voice is powerful, and it's okay to have your own beliefs. It's okay to think differently and go against what society believes when you know that it's wrong. The more that we can reclaim our power and step fully into our beliefs and speak up in situations where we notice injustice and wrong, and hold our beliefs close to us, is the more that we can make a difference and start influencing other people to do the same. We're so conditioned in society to just listen to what we're told to do, to follow what we're told, and sometimes that goes against our own beliefs and what we feel within our spirit is right. So do not be afraid to speak up. Do not be afraid to use your voice, because your voice is powerful, even if you're just one person. And it doesn't matter if it goes against what other people believe, as long as you know that it is positive and that it is something that is going to help somebody else or create a positive impact on the collective. Always go with your better judgment, despite what situations you may be in. But I do hope that you guys enjoyed this video. It's such an interesting topic, and I'm definitely going to be doing some more social experiments because they're really fun, and honestly, they teach you a lot about society. So if you did enjoy, give this video a thumbs up, share with somebody that you feel may find interest in it, subscribe, like, comment, all those good things, and I will see you guys in my next video. Peace and much love.